Okay, so for this one, what are the two things that we are mixing? What are our ingredients here? We have water, and then we have the 70% solution. What percent is water? 0%. So we're combining those two, and we're trying to get what percent? 42%. Do we know any volumes? The 240 goes with which one? So 240 milliliters goes with 70. Which one are we trying to find? The amount of water, right? We're asked how much water. That's the amount we're trying to find. So the amount of the 42 would be x plus 240. You have to add those two amounts together to the total. So now that we have that, we can set this up. This is 0 times x, which is going to be nothing, plus 70% is 0.7 times 240 is its volume, equals, over here 42% is 0.42 times its volume is x plus 240. 42%. So the x times 0 times x is nothing, it's gone. 0.7 times 240 is 168. 0.42 times 0.42 times x is 0.42x. Then 0.42 times 240 is 100.8. Now what do we have to do here? Well, we've only got one x. So we're going to get that by itself. So we're going to get rid of the 100.8. So this becomes 67.2. And then divide by 0.42. Which gives us what? 160. So take 160 milliliters of water to dilute 240 milliliters of 70% solution down to a 42% solution. Any questions? Now yesterday we talked about ratios. Things like, let's say we have, well, why not? Right now we have 8 automotive students compared to 2 dairy herd students in here. So that becomes a ratio, 8 over 2, it can reduce to a 4-to-1 ratio. Today what we're going to look at is what we do with the next step with the ratio or with a rate, either one, and to do something with it. Now many of you have worked with an hourly wage as being a rate, where you get there we go. Let's say you get paid $12 per hour. And if you work 30 hours in a week, how much do you get paid? We're used to doing $12 times 30 hours a week is $360. What's really happening there, though, what really is the calculation that's going on, this is just a shortcut. That $12 per hour is $12 per 1 hour like this. It is a rate. It's a fraction. And we are comparing it to 30 hours. Figure out how many dollars. Now you'll notice, this is what we call a proportion, by the way. We used them when we talked about percents earlier in the year. You'll notice in this proportion, dollars on top, dollars on top. The dollars have to stay together. Hours on bottom, hours on bottom. The hours have to stay together. Now it doesn't necessarily have to be side to side like this. We could flip this, and I'll show you that in a second. But they do have to stay together. So now, how do we find a missing number in a proportion? We cross multiply and divide. Which two numbers get cross multiplied here? 12 times 30, because those are the two numbers that are on a diagonal. 12 times 30 is 360. and we divide by the 1. That's $360. Now I realize that's the same calculation we did up here, and it's a little bit longer, but it shows us how the calculation actually works. Now I said that there was a different way we could have set this up, and let me show you that. I said that the dollars had to stay together. In this case, I put both of the dollars on top. I could have put them in the same ratio if I wanted to. $12 is how many dollars? Now the 12 goes with the 1 hour, so the 1 hour would have to go here. They still have to go together. They're either on top of each other or they're side by side. And then my 30 hours would go here. Notice when I cross multiply and divide, it's still 12 times 30 divided by 1. It's the same calculation. The key to these proportions is that there are 2 relationships, and I have to keep both of them. There's a relationship going horizontally. There I have dollars and dollars, hours and hours. And then there's a relationship going vertically. This is my base wage, and this is my pay per hour's worked. Okay? So let's take a look at another one. We might have, let's say we need a 2 to 5 gear ratio. We have a motor that has a gear with 15 teeth on it. So what we're operating off that motor, how many teeth does that other gear have to accomplish this? Well, our 2 to 5 is our gear ratio. The 15 is going to go where? Well, if the 15 teeth is attached to the motor, is it driven or driving? It's driving. The gear attached to the motor is the driving gear, because if I separate the 2 gears, that one's going to keep turning because it's attached to the motor. Does that make sense? Over here, the 2 or the 5, which one's driving? Well, the top one is driven over driving. The bottom one is driving. So this 15 here has to go on bottom because it's the driving gear. Now we cross multiply and divide. 2 times 15 divided by 5 is 6. So that has to mesh with a 6-tooth gear. You did what? Oh yeah, 15 divided by 5 is 3, so 2 times 3. And you can do that on a lot of these. Just say, oh, okay, 15 times 3, so 2 times 3. If they come out well. I mean, it's nice and quick just to cross multiply and divide, especially getting some uglier numbers. Let's see here. Well, let's say we need a pulley ratio of 4 to 3. So we have a 12-inch pulley on the equipment. How big of a pulley do we need to put on the motor? So where's the 12 going to go here? On top, because that's the driven. It's on the piece of equipment. That's the driven pulley. If I cut the belt, that pulley is going to stop. The one that's on the motor is what we're looking for. That's the driving pulley. That has to go with the 3. So now we'll cross multiply. 3 times 12 is 36. And divide by 4 is a 9-inch pulley. It has to go on the motor. Make sense? How about theta 1 to 3 or less debt to income ratio? currently you earn let's say you currently earn $16 per hour. And we're going to assume 40 hours a week. And 4 weeks in a month. So what's that going to give us? $2,560 a month? Does that look right? Okay. So $2,560 a month. What can your total debt payments be? Well, we have a 1-to-3 ratio. On the other side, where's the 2560 go? Well, the bottom is the income. The 3 is the income. Debt to income implies the income goes second. Also, you couldn't put the 2560 on top because you wouldn't make sense to have debt payments that are larger than your income, right? So we cross multiply and divide here. We're going to get what, 853.33. So $853.33. Now, if you look at that, again, you could use that to figure out if you already, let's say you already have a car payment. Let's say you kept it relatively sane and bought like a, I don't know, not sane, but kept it smaller. On the smaller end, you got like a $12,000 car. So you're paying like $220 a month in your car payment. And let's say that you have credit cards. And you haven't gone too wild with those. You got $130 a month of credit cards. How many of you are going to have student loans? A few of you? Okay. Student loans, let's say you get off easy and you're only paying $100 a month on your student loans. Well, that right there is, what, $450 a month. Is there anybody that thinks those numbers are too high? $130 a month in credit card debt. What was it? The average American household, and this was a few years ago, the average American household had a minimum monthly credit card payment of like $230-some a month. That was just making the minimum payments on their credit cards. That's roughly like a $7,000 or $8,000 balance. Have you ever sat down and figured out how long it would take you to pay off a credit card if you paid the minimum balance? Most of them, they've regulated it now. A lot of them, the minimum balance used to be like 40 years. They've regulated it now. It's 17 or 18 years. They're required to charge a minimum balance that it hasn't paid off in that amount of time. I believe the regulation is 20 years, but most of them shoot a little smaller just to be on the safe side. So anyway, that $450, if you have $850 is what your allowable debt is, you're down to only $403 for a mortgage if you want to buy a house. Okay. These proportions can get more difficult than that. The ones I've put up here were simple ones. Technically, what we were doing here, we've done it the shortcut way because we were always looking for a simple number, but technically what we've been doing here, let's say we have a 2-to-5 ratio. Let's go 2-to-5 gear ratio again. And we have that motor with, let's see here. We're going to have 25 teeth in it. To find the teeth on the other gear, we just cross multiplied and divided. But technically what we're doing is we're putting a variable in there. And we are just cross multiplying. And I know I showed you this a little bit with our percents, but I want to go through the process again. What's really happening here is we're cross multiplying. We're doing the diagonal products in both directions. 2 times 25 is 50. Then we're going this way. 5 times x is 5x. And those two cross products, they're called, or diagonal products, have to be equal. 5x has to equal 50. And we divide by 5 to get x by itself, to get x equals 10. So the way this became cross multiply and divide is we cross multiplied, then to solve this equation we were always dividing by this third number that was by itself to solve the equation. So we just did cross multiply and divide. But the full process is this. You cross multiply both directions and you set those two cross products equal to each other and solve the equation. So you might be wondering, why am I showing you this now? Well, because there are some problems that you have to use that to solve them. For example, let's say that I have a 60 to 25 ratio, and I want to know if it's 3x to 15, what x has to be. To solve this, I could not cross multiply and divide because I don't have, it's not this number all by itself that I'm looking for. There's something more there. So the simplest way to solve this is to cross multiply and create an equation. 60 times 15 is 900. 25 times 3x is 75x. So now what we have is we have an equation. 75x has to equal 900. And then divide by 75. X equals 12. Or we might run into something like this. In your notes, quick, find what x is for me. We have 2x times 36 makes what? 76x. 48 times 21? 1008. Now, it doesn't matter which one I put first. I always put the x first. So 76x equals 1008. You could have 1008 equals 76x. 72? Okay. Yeah, that would be better. Sorry about that. I've been off all morning, so I'm going to just stop calculating in my head now and let you guys do all the work. So we're going to divide by 72, which gives us that x equals what? 14? Cool. Or we can run into ones like this. So here, we're going to cross multiply. 9 times 45 is what? 405? Going this way, 15 times x plus 3. I'm going to write that out like that. So now I'm going to do 15 times x is 15x. 15 times 3, 45, equals 405. Now what am I going to do? I'll subtract 45. 15x equals 360. I divide by 15. X equals 24. Not so bad? Let's try another one. Let's try this one. So 32 times 14 is, what's that? 448. Going this way, I have 12 times x minus 7. I'm going to write it as 12 times x minus 7. I'll do this. 12 times x is 12x. 12 times negative 7 is negative 84 equals to 448. Then what? We'll add 84. 12x equals 532. And then divide by 12, x equals, anybody? Four and 1/3. There you go. Did I do something wrong there? Oh. It works. Why don't you guys try one? X is 44 and 1/3. Let's try this one. X minus 2 over 50 equals 35 over 15. See what you get for x. So walk me through it. You can go either direction. I'll do the 50 times 35 first. Is that 1650? 1750? Now I go this way. Now the x minus 2 is first, but I'm still going to write it as 15 times x minus 2. So now 15 times x is 15x. 15 times negative 2 is negative 30. Equals 1750. Then what? Add 30. So 15x equals 1780. And then divide by 15. X equals what? What's that? 0.67. Yeah, 2/3. 118 and 2/3. If you had either one of those, would be fine. What do you think? All sorts of fun? I could get really mean to you. Just call me Todd in the classroom. Sorry, I'll be nice. Solve that one. Try that in your notes. We'll go over it in a second. I want to see if you guys can get it. We'll start out. It doesn't matter which direction we go. We'll do the 15 times 4x plus 8 goes there. Going this way, it's 60 times 2x minus 3. So I'll multiply this one out. 15 times 4x is 60x. 15 times 8 is 120. Over here, 60 times 2x is 120x. 60 times negative 3, negative 180. Now we have to get rid of one of the x's. I'm going to get rid of the 60x. So 120 equals 120 minus 60 is 60x minus 180. And then add 180. 300 equals 60x. And then divide by 60. 5 equals x. Yeah, x equals 5. How many of you had that? A couple of you? How many would have got to it if I gave you more time? How many don't care and just want this to go away? Okay. Something new for you. This is a little different.
Yeah, I know.
What's that?
That's
Yeah.
frustrating. You can't figure out why you can't get the right answer.
Yeah, it is frustrating. about something like that? Well, we would still just cross multiply. 4 times 9 is 36. X times x, x squared, right? So x squared equals 36. How would I solve that equation? Well, what's been done to x? It's been squared. To reverse that, we square root. So x equals, what's the square root of 36? 6 or negative 6. If I put in a negative 6 here, that would reduce to negative 2/3. Put in a negative 6 here, that would still reduce to a negative 2/3. So it would still be the same. If we just got the x equals 6, I would let it go with that. I wouldn't insist that you have both of them, but there are actually 2 answers for that. Oh, let's see here. See if you guys can find that one. So we'll cross multiply. 16 times 4 is 64. Y times y. Y squared. So y squared equals 64. Then what? Square root. So y equals 8 or negative 8. What do y'all think? Not as bad as it could be? Wow, there's faith for you.
Why are you enticing him?
I'm almost hurt a little bit.
Quit poking the stick in his eye. You have a glass can poke him, you shouldn't have him.
Yeah, he's gone.
That's what I'm saying. He just disappeared. Makes sense.
Neither is this family. It's okay.
He pours concrete. On weekends. He carries big rugs in his back seat.
I should have told you guys about that.
Yeah, now we're scared. God damn it, we don't go to math, that'll kill us.
Well, it's good that we got that point out of the way early. Try to solve that one. We ready or you need a couple more minutes? So going this way, we've got 4x plus 2 times 14, so it'll be 14 times 4x plus 2. Going this way, 5x minus 7 times 15, so 15 times 5x minus 7. And I'm going to multiply it out down here. 14 times 4x plus 2 is going to give us 14 times 4x is 56x. 14 times positive 2 is 28. Over here, 15 times 5x minus 7. 15 times 5x is 75x, and 15 times negative 7, negative 105. Right? So now what? Subtract 56x. 28 equals 19x minus 105. And then add 105. So 133 equals 19x. Divide by 19, good. 7 equals x. How have you had that? Cool. Fortunately, most of the stuff we see isn't really quite that complex. So in your book on page 288, exercise 7.2, 1 through 89, the odds, goes through these. Again, feel free to skip around a bit. You don't have to do all 45 problems.
Not good.